Hello, it's Miss Blundell here. I'm going to be doing your lesson for today, and what we're going to be doing is continual line. Now the equipment you'll need for this lesson, it's very simple. All you need is a piece of paper, a black biro pen and an object from around your house, okay, or outside. Now what you need to do is you need to think about the project that you've been doing so far and try and find something that relates to your project as much as possible. So for instance, if you're doing natural forms or fruit or food, you could get something like an apple like me. If you're doing junk food, you could find something at home, maybe some sweets, a biscuit, a can of pop. If you're doing more flowers, natural forms or landscapes, you could go outside, find yourself a leaf or maybe a flower head, a pod of some sort. Go outside and have a look for me. If you're doing something like portraits, just find an object or stick to natural forms, or a piece of fruit or a flower, because then what we can do is we can put it at the start of your folder, the work that you did at year 10 where you mainly did observational drawings. Right, let's get started. First thing I want you to do is I want you to focus on the outline, okay? Now the whole point of doing a continual line drawing, it gets you to focus on the actual object when you're drawing rather than focusing too much on the paper. Now what I mean by that is sometimes you can get so engrossed in your drawing on the paper that you forget to keep looking back at the object and you miss out all of these intricate details, okay? Whereas a continual line drawing, you're constantly having to look back to know where to go next and you don't want to make a mistake. So the reason that we use black biro when doing a continual line drawing, it stands out, makes the lines stand out, and also it doesn't particularly matter if you make a mistake because the style of a continual line drawing is quite loose anyway. So I'll just start for you and show you how I would do it. So start with the base of the apple. And there's no rush, take your time, doesn't matter how long it takes you. I think one thing that people get wrong with a continual line drawing is they feel like it has to be quick and they rush it. Okay, I'm just meeting back to this mark here, okay? And now remember, you can't lift your pen up. So I'm going to follow that line back round. I'm going to have a go at putting a dip in where the stalk sits. I've got a bit of a stalk like that. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some detail. Okay, so I'm looking at the inside of the apple. And I'm just building up mark making, okay? Because as you can see, the apple in front of me is very textured. And also, I want to get tone into it. So where I'm building up the lines is the darker parts of the apple, so where there's more shadow. And the less lines are the lighter bits, okay? So I'm going to bring it down here. I'm going to start adding some of this detail in. Yeah, so we start adding that detail in like that. Okay, and if you get to a point where you made a mistake with the shape, you can go back over it and just start to sort those edges out a bit. Okay, so mine looks a little bit wobbly, so I'm just going to go over and round those edges off a bit. This way, do the same here. These look like they're part of the same apple. Like that. Okay. Start building up this detail, so keep looking back at my apple. Okay, I'm just going to keep building it up. Okay, Now, depending on what part of the apple you're drawing, if you see the lines here I've done curved, whereas here I've done them straight. I want to give the illusion that I want to make it look 3D basically, okay? And that's something I want you guys to do as well when you're doing your drawings. So now on this edge, I'm starting to curve the lines this way, okay? And if you do bring your pen off the paper, it's not the end of the world. Just put your pen back where it was, okay? And try and continue as best you can, okay? But as you can see, you start to get quite a loose drawing, which is completely different to your observational drawing, but it's nice to have different types in your folder. Now when you're doing this, you can do different types of mark making. So an apple's quite smooth, so the lines I'm doing, there's no texture to them really, they're just nice and straight, so I give the illusion that the apple has got all that detail on it, but it's still got a smooth surface. If you've got quite a textured surface, what you could do is you could create all different types of doing little spirals or little circles. It depends on the object that you've got in front of you, okay? So obviously under here it's quite dark, so I'm going to build those lines up quite a bit. I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. Bit here's going to be the darkest. And we can just shade this area here where it's the darkest. Okay. If it gets to a point where when you've added your detail, you can sort of reflect back at it, lift your head up a bit, have a look and see if you do need to rework the shape of the apple as well, the outline of it, or whatever it is you're drawing. So I've got my darker lines there, and then I want it quite light here, so I'm going to make sure I keep the lines separated, okay? So still getting the shape of the apple, making sure it looks 3D. Want to be able to tell that it was a 3D object that you were drawing, okay? And you can build up the area so it's quite darker down here. Okay. It just goes to show that sometimes looser drawings doesn't necessarily mean they're not as good as an observational drawing, it's just a different method. I think my apple looks a bit funny on this side, so I'm going to just add it a bit here. Still not lifting my pen. And as you can see, I've made mistakes drawing this apple, but it doesn't matter. You just sort of extend on it, or you just go with it. Okay, let's have a look. Blend it in a bit here. Build it up slightly so it doesn't just stop rigidly. You want it to gradually get less dense. Okay, you just build that up. Maybe go a bit darker at the top here. And then if we pull our pen back, take a look. I don't think that's far off now. Maybe just add a little bit more in the middle here. And I'd say that wasn't far off. So you've got your continual line drawing of an apple. I didn't lift my pen up. If you do lift it, like I said, it's not the end of the world. Just try and get your pen back to where you last lifted it. and keep looking at your object. Okay, so the whole point of this exercise is to get yourself in the habit of looking at the object you're drawing, okay, because you don't want to get in the habit of drawing what you think you see. You want to draw what you actually see. Okay, now obviously an apple is quite simple, it's like quite a simple shape, so you need to think about this when you pick your objects, what you're going to draw. If you are quite confident in drawing and you want something a bit more complex, something like this can, the drawing I did before, a Coke, Diet Lemonade can, okay, and it's just got more texture to it, yeah, it's got more curves and it's a little bit more complex, okay, but it's totally up to you. That's just 2 suggestions. Think of your ability and also think of your project.